All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Palantir Weekly Podcast. This is episode number 2022 in 2022. I am here with Sachin. Chris and Dominic will be joining us just in a little bit. They're probably just getting on right now. Big week for Palantir. We had earnings this week. I covered it live on my live stream Monday. Chris and Sachin were with me. I put a clip about 2 days ago that clipped out our raw thoughts right after earnings ended. So you guys probably know what we felt and probably thought about earnings. Before we get deep into earnings, I'm going to wait till Chris and Dom come on. I'm going to ask Sachin on what's going on his take on the macro. The macro is insane right now. S&P hitting almost 430. It was at lows at 360. It's been rallying up 10% this month. It's one of the best months since November 2020. Sachin, is this a bear market rally? How are you feeling? And any specific thoughts on what's going on in the market?
So, Amit, my first reaction is I would still consider this is a bear market rally. And the reason for that is because the market declined for so many months for so much. I mean, it hasn't happened for such a long time. So some reversal and some bounce back was expected. But the macro scenario hasn't changed. The forces that was driving macro hasn't changed. I mean, energy has gone down, but I mean, to be honest, $80-$90 oil is still pretty high. It will not reduce the inflation as it is expected. In terms of the inflation is still quite high. Okay, I mean, if you remove the singularity errors for which Mr. Biden has said that zero inflation, I mean, still inflation is pretty high. The interest rate has not increased as they should have been by now. The world governments have added around $35 trillion in the last 10 years. Okay, that is almost like I mean, the world GDP is around 85 trillion, so that is a lot of 40% of that money is still there, has not been taken out. So in terms of supply demand, things are, there's more supply in terms of money. Yeah, I think I'm not sure that can we see a proper reversal at this time. Having said that, my view is that in the most tech growth stock, we probably would have seen bottom in Q2 22, and there's a reason for that. See, since .com and since GFC, there has been the funds that are flowing in passive investing has increased quite a lot. Now, when you invest in a passive investing, what happens is that the fund is distributed automatically based on the volume weight of the index. So that means companies that has higher weight gets more money. So it creates a kind of a vicious circle. So that has probably likely created divergence between companies which are in indexes, especially high volume weight, versus companies which are not in indexes. That's why we saw that in Q2 2020, some companies were at low, like even like 80-90% from their all-time high, while the indexes have declined, but they haven't gone too much. Also, I mean, the long only funds will try to stay more in the companies that are, I mean, more stable or more safe in a way. So that's probably one of the things which I don't know even what's the answer for that, is that indexes are more protected now because of this phenomena. So will that see the bottom going quite low or a bit subdued? But I still haven't seen like a proper reversal in macro in general, and I don't think that will happen for next 3-4 months.
So you don't think so, but do you think the S&P could get to 450, like, do you think it'll still rally and it's just all fake, which means you don't buy?
See, if S&P, I mean, like, we need to listen to market. I mean, one thing is having theory, but the market, in my view, is always respond first and the news comes later. So if S&P keep on rally, I would like to change my view in that part. I would like to find the information that can disprove me. I try to look for information at this point of time. I haven't found it. I mean, I see that energy prices have reduced, but they are still pretty high. Energy macro is pretty strong. Energy prices are likely going to stay strong for a while. The supply chain issues, the issues that happened with recently with Taiwan, that are only going to constrain things. So I don't know. I mean, what has changed in macro that could propel it? One thing is good, that we know that for major companies, there have been some surprises in earning, but overall S&P earnings in general are okay, except few companies. So whether that is because analyst has already marked in that whatever the recessionary impact, or the companies eventually did better than expected, I think time will tell. But at this point, I'm not entirely buying that we have seen the bottom of the market. We might have seen the bottom of the high growth tech. Back to you guys.
All right, that was our little weekly recap on what's going on in the macro. I'm sure Dom and Chris, you'll give us your thoughts as well. We're gonna get right into it. Palantir earnings. First of all, we got to start off with Chris. A lot of people in the chat are just like, Chris, how are you? I uploaded the clip the other day where you said what you said. How are you doing, bro? Just raw thoughts. How are you feeling right now? You're on mute.
I'm trying to figure out why my camera's like lagging. I don't know if you guys notice it, but it's weird. Like, it's not as clear or smooth. So that's what I was trying to figure out. But
Put your mic up a little bit louder, just a little bit louder. The gain.
yeah, how's that sound?
That's better. You're good. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So what can I say about the earnings, man? I mean, there's a lot of challenges that Palantir has got, but most of them are driven by the executive team. I mean, they have to take some responsibilities on what's going on, right? There are some things that they can do to kind of change up the the business model a little bit. I think they're still operating under the premise that they're a government contractor rather than a commercial sales organization, and that's been kind of my biggest issue with Palantir. And this goes back almost 6 months because like when I look at one of the things I do in my job is I do implementation consulting, right? So I know what it takes to implement software into organizations, and in order for you to do that correctly, you have to kind of figure out what the counterparty needs and then work with the counterparty to assess, okay, how am I going to implement this? So one of the things I could tell you is there's a huge difference between government clients and private clients, right? Government clients, you have a lot of legacy employees who are very set in their ways. It takes a really long time for them to adopt to new things. Whereas private side, they're very quick, but they're also very they'll break up with you very quickly because at the end of the day, if you don't provide the bottom line, that's it. Like they'll cut you out. Whereas the government will string you along for years, if not decades. So a lot of defense contractors, they've been, even if they've had failed projects with them, they've been kind of strung along, and that kind of applies to Palantir too, right? So right now, I think there's two different business models that they need to kind of approach these things with. I don't know 100% if they're doing it, but it doesn't seem like they're doing it for the commercial side. They're trying to sell to the commercial side like how they would be selling to the government side with some like really like a lot of white glove service. But honest to God, you don't need that with the private side. The private side, you just got to give them the software, let their internal guys learn as much as they can, and then just set them off and let them do its thing. So I do have some thoughts on some past mistakes that they did make. But I'll let the other guys talk about it some more so I can collect my thoughts and make it a little bit more presentable.
Number one stock in your portfolio. How'd you feel after earnings?
Yeah, I actually have a video coming out about this, and I'll just kind of repeat what I said there with Arnie this morning. Um, Obviously, they weren't stellar. I think what I had more of a problem with is what everyone I think here had a problem with is definitely Tom Nash spoke very well and articulate about this was the communication. The communication on the results was lackluster. It wasn't transparent. If you want to really understand the results and why things happened the way they did, you have to make your own speculative assumptions. And even retail investors such as ourselves are able to articulate better than the executives on positives that happened within even the earnings. So, for example, Dom sold it all. Get out of here! I haven't sold one share. Get me all fired
That
up.
money is this is his stick. He's saying everybody sold it.
No, I don't want to share my numbers, but no, I haven't. Have not. But like for instance, the government grew in the U.S. 27% year over year, but they didn't highlight that, right? You actually had to go to the press release that was not in the earnings deck. Overall government results was 13%. So what does that tell you? Well, that tells you that government holistically overseas was disastrous. So there was no incremental add to that, right? But we know that they're doing work over there with NATO, Ukraine, and things of that sort. So that could have been presented more articulately on the call. Then when we look at the growth on, how you get to 4.5 billion, it was really irritating that we didn't get the how and the prescriptive walkthrough on how the business is going to grow to get to where it needs to go. You heard him pounding the desk. Alex was very frustrated. He said, "Hey, I'm focused on 4.5 billion. That's what I'm focused on. I'm not focused on this quarter." If I was in that room, I would have definitely loved to ask as an analyst. Well, not in the room because it was remote, but I would have asked, how are you going to get there? Walk me through how you get from where you're at now. And a lot of that, and those who study the business understand that the contribution margins don't grow exponentially until several quarters, if not years after. So when you look at their customers that they have from 2 years ago that they acquired, they're growing. I'm just reading the chat here. Their acquired phase, large portion of new customers. Yeah, exactly. Matt has it figured out exactly. So you're not going to see the growth that they've accomplished with those customers for at least another 2 years. So the fact that they got Coca-Cola back and some other large companies, we will see those revenues trickle in. You also can see that their RPOs grew. Their billings didn't grow very much, but overall they still should expect a lot more contribution margin and expansion with those commercial customers. That's a positive. That wasn't highlighted at all on the call. And
Do you feel Carp was being crazy, banging on the table, talking about our client data?
I just think that they don't have someone who's able to articulate the business side of what investors are there to hear about. Like, he's going to do what he wants to do his way. I get that. I respect that. But if you truly care about your shareholders and you care about overall more institutions investing in you as a business, you have to play the game. You have to know what analysts want to hear. And me and Arnie, a former financial analyst, we were talking and saying, I want to know how you're going to get there to the number. I want to know why the miss was on EPS 3 quarters in a row. Okay. You have to give me so some kind of guidance here. And then, really outline, like we were talking about the presentation there, and they outline all these different products that they've released and some old products that are now, Nexus peering that came out 10 years ago. For me as an analyst, that tells me nothing. Now, if you can break down those products and tell me what they were revenue growth from last year to this year and the projected growth, now all of a sudden you're giving me a way to see how you're going to get to the number. The other piece, and you can stop me at any point because I could go on and on about what I feel about with earnings, but the other piece is he talked about, well, we're doing all of this with only 42 sales reps. Well, you were doing a lot with just yourself. What that tells me as an analyst, without you giving me more prescription and more guidance on your business, is this is a very tough product to sell. And Chris and Sachin hit on this numerous times throughout our episodes of not always the best product wins. The best execution wins. The best leadership and the best delivery and scale to market and capturing product fit and market share first wins. So Microsoft is notorious for this. They don't always put out the best product, let alone even the top 3. But execution and platform and adoption and then expansion and getting in with a product that you need, and then getting these other products around it and articulating it easy to understand in the traditional IT buyer sense. Hey, I can get along with that. Same thing with Snowflake. Frank Slootman is doing exactly that. Chris's Databricks, I'm digging more into it. I know they're doing it. I have developer friends who use that stuff. But if it's hard to sell, then it's going to be hard to expand on at the rate that's needed to capture most market share. So I get that they are going to show, it was kind of like a half and half for me. I was really disappointed. I give them a D- on execution of conveying the results. I give them the same kind of grade on just overall articulation and relationships with their investor relation teams with the community, and also with developers. And then as far as the numbers go, my thesis is not broken. They have great financials. Now with the credit they just took out, they have 3.4 billion. Begs the question. Me and Arnie said, well, what are you going to do with it? Like, I get that, it does preserve cash and you could possibly use that to lower the SBC. But at some point, you have to be willing to use some of that cash and get aggressive. So there's just a lot of unknowns. So at the end of my video, just to cut to the chase, I said, hey, haven't sold a thing. I still very confident it'll be a great investment, but they haven't shown me enough out of that last 2-3 earnings calls to give them $1 more until otherwise shown. The valuation is undervalued. It's at a value stock price right now with the trajectory of growth, but I have concerns of leadership. And so why do I need, it's double than any other position I have. I would rather give that to Jensen, who's shown me all the avenues of the businesses they have, the TAM, how they're going to get there, where the growth is in the future of the company, and NVIDIA is very misunderstood in the marketplace. Same with Snowflake. So that's just where I stand. I don't think they've earned the right to get any more of my money for the time being.
Okay, Sachin.
No, I agree with Dom entirely. So, like I said, I mean, I haven't sold anything. Okay, even like I had a strategy, like if the company starts getting flat, how will I exit? And that's what I explained. But I have raised red flags, and at this particular point, my assessment on Palantir execution risk is high. Okay, it's not very high, but it's definitely high, and there's a reason for that. Okay, see, we can talk about numbers, whether the numbers are good or bad in general. Okay, but I mean, if you see, like when I talk about like low frequency investing, you need to be very careful what the management says. Now, management themselves have said that they would like to give a conservative estimate at some point of time when they give 30% year on year growth. Now they are below that. They themselves said that they would like to make a thin tier offering, which they have not done yet. Okay, they have said several times that they wanna productize compute, and at one point of time when we saw the data mesh coming to Japan, and the idea is that you take compute to where your storage is, that hasn't happened in mass in general. Okay, they said they'll be releasing new products. There are not enough new products has come, which is like thin tier or quite open. They said their product is a part of like 500 modules where you can mix match them to even make like thousands of products, but it is not been released yet. They have $2 billion in cash, which is more than their annual revenue. The question is, what are you doing with that? I mean, see, it's people say like having cash in hand is good. Yes, it is good. It gives you resiliency, but having cash in hand also make you a little complacent, because you are not going down under the bridge. There is no compulsion. There is no. So this is what we call like the agency issues, and I think company is currently running into it. Missing EPS. I mean, like I said, I don't worry too much about earning, but the underlying issues of revenue declines is definitely a big concern for me. Under no circumstances I can put with less than 30% year on year. Even if they are doing 30% year on year until 2025, I'll be out of this company. Okay, I haven't invested for 30%. Now you see, like if you see their peers, for example, if you see the case of a Snowflake. Now Snowflake had exceptional growth, and the company product is actually limited, and company knows it. And since like last year, they have been changing the tone. They have saying we are data cloud platform, we have to increase vertically, so we need to do inorganic growth. When this time the Snowflake summit has happened, the Frank Slootman was saying that earlier we used to give our product to client and client will do whatever it wants, but that doesn't solve the problem, and that was shortcoming. They say, now we want to go to client with a better product and a better expandability so that we can help clients. So they are actually moving into the territory in further layers into big data OS. They are taking the ownership of clients problem in a way, because that will allow them to get more premium revenue. So it may not be threatening at this particular point, but it will be threatening at some point of time. They don't have large customers as Palantir is having, who are paying millions of dollars, but their customers are spending more on that part. Their customers relationship, their messaging, their self-servicing offering, they are at a different league, I would say. I think we have to assume, like, and they, you see, their proposition is that we bring simplicity and we bring speed. Palantir proposition is that we bring speed and time to value and we solve complexity. Okay, now what is happening is that Snowflake is focusing on small things, but a lot of things within that company, and they are getting more like incremental sales, while Palantir hasn't done it. It's very easy to say that you want to go to big customer, but big customer, you have to do top down selling. Now, one of the issue which I learned from very senior executive in a very super major energy company this year is, and they were like buying and investing in the digital transformation companies, and they said, you know what happened now, that we are realizing that 80% of these companies will actually never emerge from this downturn. So they want to go back to the companies which are more stable, and where you have, like, for example, when I was working a different role, I was saying this, we've been here for 80 years, we are not going anywhere. Okay, you want to go, you want to do something, why don't you do with us? Okay, so this is what is I mean, Palantir is missing. And to be fair, the revenue miss I could take if you could explain me why. Okay, if you just want me to believe it and you come up frustrated and kind of in a ranting mode, I'm sorry. I mean, I have been doing investing since 96. I have seen all kind of people who industry misunderstands and they become successful, and people who look good and they don't deliver. So the delivery risk at this particular point of Palantir is super high.
Is this one of those moments like when Tesla had a bad quarter in 2013 and they missed earnings and growth and investors just had to stick it through? Like, or is it actually you're seriously concerned it's not just a miss? And, because like if those Tesla investors felt the same way and they exited the stock, they would have missed the run up. And I know we've compared the MBAs, they didn't get Tesla, they don't get Palantir. If that underlying thesis of Wall Street doesn't get them hasn't changed, is there a level of real fear that'll cause you to get out of the position, or is it you're kind of taking it over the next 2 years and not going to be like
before you answer that, Sachin, let me just comment. All four of us have different time horizons and also different objectives on why we're investing. Sachin is trying to retire at a very small time window, so he's expecting 10x or greater. You asked that same question to me, Amit, and as long as I'm beating the market, I'm happy, because I don't ever see myself not working. For me, retirement is one day just getting paid to talk about stocks. That's my retirement, and do it from where I want to do it. Unfortunately, YouTube doesn't pay enough right now, or I don't have enough followers to make it make sense. But so there's a difference there, and I don't think that
like you're not in it for the Tesla case. You don't care that much.
I would rather, they've gotten so much of my capital that my goal is just to make sure that if I wanted to stop working, I can, and I want to diversify. And my age time horizon, I'd like to stop working and not doing what I want to do is maybe like age 50. I'm 37, so I'm 13 years on track right now. And so when I feel more comfortable with things, like if you're asking me, and I talk about this in my video, stacking Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Palantir, I'm super confident in Microsoft and NVIDIA being around and being a compounding machine. It may not go to the moon, but it's going to beat the market in 10 years. And I could talk through that. So, Sachin, now let's hear for your side of perspective, where you're trying to hit the home runs and be the king, buy yourself a nice little Ferrari.
It's actually a yacht.
So Yeah, Yacht. I mean, I'm not a Ferrari guy, but Yacht is something definitely. Uh, See, I think there has been this comparison being made several times. See, Palantir is not Tesla. When Tesla missed the earnings in 2013, at that particular time, the market was betting not against Tesla, market was betting against the EV industry altogether. They said there will be no EV
Mm,
industry. People were
that's a good
making
point.
joke of it. And
That's a good
EV
point.
industry is not about writing codes. EV industry is making physical products. You're doing near real engineering breakthroughs. Uh, See, whatever we talk about today about Rivian and Lucid, they don't exist because if Tesla would have failed, Tesla created, the risk Tesla took was quite high. So if they miss earnings, few earnings or few years of earnings, they deserve it. Still to be, you still want to be invested because it's a long dated option for you. Now Palantir in 2009 2010 could have get that kind of understanding because the cloud technology was not that mature, the products were not that mature. At this particular point, Palantir exist in an industry that is thriving and growing, and there are people one way or other way doing very very well about it. Okay, so they are underperforming in a growing and thriving industry. So in my opinion, the risk on Palantir is higher than Tesla in 2030. I hope that kind of comparison will make some sense to you, because this is what exactly happened. I think we that's what I say, guys. If you wanna be an investor, you always write your thoughts. So today, what I think about Palantir, I write about it because I can go back and read it in 3 months' time, and I can see. I mean, I have my notes dated like my first investment notes goes, I mean, like 98, 99, and it's very embarrassing some of those things when I read back. But if you don't write your investing thinking, okay, you don't show it to anyone, that's fine. But yeah, I think it's very difficult to learn the lessons, right? So at this particular point, why I'm still invested in Palantir, because of very simple reason. See, the company on a TTM basis has a multiple that is less than 10. Snowflake on the TTM basis has a multiple that is north of 30. Okay, so if
Can you
Palantir
explain
does
what that
pretty
means?
bad, let's say,
Multiple on a TTM. Can you explain what that means?
simply say in terms of like revenue per price multiple revenues. Okay, um, I think
So
easier
it's
if you
what
don't
the
know how to
investor is
calculate
willing
it.
to pay per their revenue, right?
Yeah,
So an investor is
yeah,
willing to pay 30 times Snowflake's revenue because of the growth. Okay.
yeah. So in other way, Snowflake is valued 3 times more premium than Palantir. So they have to deliver that growth. Now the way I see is following. Okay, I see like what will happen if the Palantir becomes super dead. I mean, they will still increase revenue like 10, 15, 20%, something like that. Okay, that means even if the, and everyone knows that we are in a low market at this particular point, so if the market rebounds, the TTM multiples should improve as well. So that gives at least Palantir a case of like a 2x if you want to see like in next 3-4 years. Now if you if you take a position that Palantir can actually get their go to market execution right, and the market can at least price it in terms of like 2025, that gives a slightly higher valuation. If you go to the downside case, we have already seen that Palantir has gone to 6.4. Okay, if you have to liquidate the company today, I mean, you have 2 billion in cash, which is $1 per share if you want to take it that way. You have some remaining obligation, you have an IP and tax. I mean, it's fair to say that this tax is critical to US government. So if the company has to liquidate, companies like Microsoft and Google will be forced to buy something like this. So company will have at least a residual value in that particular case of 8 to 10 billion dollar. Okay, if you take it that way, that means $4 to $5 is the liquidation value of Palantir if you have to liquidate the company today. So that is your downside if things go completely south from here. So at a $9-10 level, okay, you have a downside of 50%. And when I look back and I see the upside, that can go anywhere from 100% and more. That's still make me interested in this company. And of course, I have a strategy which I discussed in on my Twitter, is that if they keep doing this, I'll turn Palantir more into my cash stock rather than an investment stock, and I'll just try to maintain it more on my covered call basis. Okay, back to you guys.
Chris. Well, first off, real quick, I have to ask a question that I want Sachin and Dom to answer, just yes or no, and then I'm going to ask Chris that question. Okay. So that question is, Dom, are you still invested in Palantir?
Yes.
Okay. Sachin, are you still invested in Palantir?
Yes, all in on my
Okay,
public equity, still
Chris.
100%.
Chris, you are
Alexa, execute Order 66.
you're muted, bro.
Oh.
Do it
Alexa,
again.
Alexa, the time has come. Execute Order 66.
Yes, my lord, it will be done. The Palantards will be hunted down and destroyed.
There we go. All right, Amit, bring me back. Alexa, stop.
So this was planned. I didn't know what Chris was gonna do, but that was planned. Chris, can you explain what you just did?
All right, so this week I did it. I sold a ton of covered calls in the money, and I'm out. Completely out of Palantir as of this weekend because I'm going to get assigned. But I made money, so I'm happy, right? I had my doubts with regards to Palantir, of course, because of the whole management thing. So this week when it started to go around $10, I was like, listen, I'm not sure I'll get an opportunity to get better pricing on this, especially considering some of the downtrends that I'm seeing. So I had to make a conscious decision. I sold some covered call. Well, called pretty much the entire time. I just sold $9 covered calls. I called my wife. I said, "Hey, dear, do me a favor. Go to your Robinhood," because she's got a Robinhood. I got her to convinced her to start investing. Told her sell all of it. She's like, "Okay." And I said, "Just buy Snowflake," and I'm DCing into Snowflake. I'm sorry, guys. Palantir doesn't deserve any of my capital until one of two events happens. Number one, they split off the commercial from their government, or Alex Karp is removed from the CEO. I don't think that this guy is the right person to run this company. He may have been a good founder at one point. He convinced a lot of great, smart people to join the company. But in terms of selling the product that he's created, he's not good at it. What's worse is that most CEOs in a position like that, where they were founders and they understand that they're out of their depth, they willingly take a step back and put someone who can run the company in a better way and put them up front. He doesn't seem to be doing that. He's literally just been there for 17 years. How many chances does VC funds have given this guy for the last 17 years? And you expect investors to sit with him and, play this like, "Oh, I know my vision and that's it." Dude, I get it. Founders have great visions, but at the same time, you also need execution. And I don't think that this guy is built for the sales culture that's required to sell this product. So no matter how good this product is, until they have someone at the helm who's going to be able to take charge on sales, not for me. At the end of the day, when it comes to
Just to be clear, Chris, did you actually sell, or are you joking?
No, 100%. I sold covered calls, so I'm going to get assigned. So basically, this weekend, Fidelity is just going to take all my Palantir shares out. I mean, I collected my premium. I'm sitting on them, and believe it or not, I made the smartest move possible. I bought a shit ton of TQQQ and rode the market higher. So either way, right now, like I said, I'm completely out of Palantir. I'm not a Palantir bear. I will not short the company at all. I'm not a short guy. There's too much risk in shorting. I may end up buying some puts if I see that it rises too much, in which case I want to see, I may end up on the other side of it. But until they can prove to me that they have what it takes to actually make sales, not my cup of tea. Every industry person that I've spoken to says either one of two things about Palantir at this point. One, which is the one that I get most of the time, we don't know who the hell they are. Or two, not for us, the company's completely unethical. And those are the only two responses that I get. And I speak to a lot of industry professionals. So I don't know I don't know what I can add more than that, but I am going to be very critical of Alex Karp. And here's the one last part that I am not a big fan of. When it comes to companies, shareholders, institutional investors, activist investors, they can go into a company, and if they've had multiple quarters of underexpected growth, EPS misses, they can make some changes at the board level and say, hey, listen, you've got this amount of time before we start looking for your replacement. With Palantir, you can't do that. So you're inherently stuck with a lunatic at the well, I don't know, a lunatic, that's a little too harsh, but you're stuck with a guy with the button on the company, right? Whether it wants to succeed or not, and you have no say in it whatsoever. And I'm not a big fan of that. So on that level, I'm out.
So real quick before you go down, I definitely didn't know you were doing that because I asked Chris when we were texting. I was like, "Yo, did you sell?" He was like, "No. Just at 15 minutes, ask me this question. It's nothing bad." Well,
so
all right. I know
I
we
just
have a
want
lot
to
of
say
questions.
that investing is a personal decision. So not
Yeah.
everyone hate on Chris here. Everyone, to each of their own, has their own time horizon, their own risk mitigation, and what they feel comfortable with for their family. Everyone it's their capital. So,
So Chris, let's talk about this. I mean, this is a good comment by Jay Schwal. He says, what surprised me is that you all guys don't doubt the product for even 1 second. It's just management and sales that has gone wrong in your opinion. Is that not something you think could be fixed, Chris? And is it worth?
So normally it could be fixed very easily because, like I said, your board of directors would be making some tough decisions, right, and getting things implemented. With this leadership team, this executive team, there is no board of directors outside of the Class F shares because they can elect whoever they want, right? Any other company right now, like here's an example, AMD. AMD wasn't doing good. They said, screw the current CEO. We need a new CEO. They brought in Lisa Su, right, who actually can perform, who's an operator. And it goes into the other thing too. Not everyone who's a founder can be the one that takes you to a growth stage company, right? And actually capitalize on that. So if you look at Snowflake, Frank Slootman is not the co-founder of Snowflake, all right? He is the guy that they brought in because they know that this guy can bring their vision to the mass market. The co-founder is still there. He's actually on the board of directors. If you look at Google did the same thing. Larry Page and Sergey Brin didn't say, oh yeah, we're going to be lifelong CEOs of this company. No, they said that, look, we need someone with good management experience that knows how to market the product and expand it. And they brought Eric Schmidt in, right? So there's so many companies where sometimes the founders can get a little too invested in the company, right? In terms of seeing it grow in their way, and they completely disregard what the industry actually needs and wants. And then what ends up happening is now what happens is the company suffers. But most of the time, the board of directors can come in and make some changes. In Palantir's case, you can't. So there's inherently a layer of risk on top of what everyone in the industry already expects. Like I said, if a company is not performing, you can replace the CEO. In this case,
all of that money, it's already in Snowflake, or it's getting into Snowflake?
No, it's right now. Most of it's my premiums are in TQQ, but I'm gonna slowly start DCAing into Snowflake and some other investments that I'm looking at. Right, that's the other thing too. By the way, no hate on Palantir. There are just so many good opportunities out there that I feel like I'm missing on, and I don't want to have my money be dead money for a long period of time. And what happens is, look, they can make the changes, but until those changes start happening, it's just literally dead money, in my opinion, just sitting there. Whereas I have performing companies that are undervalued, that are growing sales, that are in a growing industry that I'm missing out on investing in because my money is tied into Palantir. So I'm sorry, Palantir, until you start making some changes, I'm out.
So
Now, let's not
let me
say
take
that
a
Snowflake is
let
not
me
undervalued. Let's be clear on
No,
that.
no,
No,
not Snowflake. Yeah,
Okay, let's
not
be very
Snowflake.
clear on that.
There's a broad range of companies, not just Snowflake. All right,
Okay.
there's
I'll
a
make
good
sure
amount.
we're on
Yeah,
the same page, or we're not
yeah, yeah.
spitting out false things here. But I like how
Yeah.
they're running their company better from a sales perspective.
So the question that
Sachin,
was
your
that
thoughts?
was the question that was asked was that they have a good product and their execution is bad. So can't they get their execution right? See, I think there is a one example which is the biggest in the industry is, see, if you take the case of Oracle, where does Oracle stands when it comes on cloud database? Now, Oracle is a database company. They are nowhere. Okay, now if you go back in 2018 and 2017, and if you start listening Larry Page, and Larry Page will give a lot of, he goes on rant against AWS, and he says, see, even the everyone is using the products that we have invested and we have built. So the clients will eventually realize, and clients will come back to us. Did client go back to Oracle? No, nobody went for Oracle. When I talk to senior executive and I take the name of Oracle, I mean, I can see the strain that comes on their face. So my view on Oracle is very simple. It's a great product. It's a great company. It has a flawed go-to-market strategy, and it has a terrible attitude. Okay, so having a good product is a guarantee for sales? No. People will buy it until they have options, but as soon as they start getting options, they'll start moving it out. And if you see in the case of AWS, I remember like it was Siemens which was decided to go with the AWS database. It's very simple database, but they decided to go. Nobody wants to deal with them. Okay, I was talking to this guy. He is leading a, a very large software division, and he was saying that if it's up to him, he don't want any of the database on Oracle, and that's part of their strategy. They are taking cost in to actually exit out of Oracle. That means they need to build new things out of it. And he said, I just want to ensure that it's part of our roadmap. So having a good platform or having a good software, even industry leading software, and in case of Oracle, they don't even have a software product. They have a legacy in the database technologies. And everybody who is doing database is actually using their technologies. Okay, so having a right product will make all these go away? No, it will not. Okay, they need product, and they need the right attitude to sell it, and they need to actually help people. If you keep telling, if you see, if I'm going to meet someone and I feel that person hates me, it doesn't matter how professional I behave, it will have a bearing on if I go and meet someone and I always see, okay, this is going to be a start of a new relationship that can go for a couple of decades. I have a very different attitude to talk to that person. If you have worked in sales and your idea is that I want to go to this meeting and just this meeting is over, I get the sale done and I don't want to see that face again, this is not how business is done. You need to build no agenda relationship that you carry for long. You need to help people, and then they reciprocate. So at this particular point, they are not able to reach enough people, and they are not able to help make them believe that we can solve what nobody else can do for you. Because if you do that, people don't care what kind of image you have. I mean, people who love Elon, they love Elon. They don't care about all the quirkiness that comes with it, because he executes. Okay, and it doesn't matter like how many people hate him. It just really doesn't cut the bill for him. So at this particular point, the execution, I mean, I like what Alok has done in terms of go to market in last 1.5 years. I mean, I really have to appreciate, because when he came in the company, the sales force was literally non-existent. Okay, and it's a very, very, very different culture. Okay, so in general, I mean, I like, okay, but see, at the end of the day, everything is fine, but you need to make the sales, and sales are not coming. I think you might need Kathy Patel to do the sales for Palantir now. Back to you guys.
People are saying, is Chris off the pod? Chris, I don't think you want to be off the pod, right? You can still be on the
No,
pod.
man. No, I
You're just
mean,
gonna be
dude,
the guy
Yeah,
who's,
you got some serious haters on you right now.
it's all good. It's all good.
You
Here's the thing: you need to have contrasting voices. Otherwise, it becomes an echo chamber. Everyone who gives me hate right now, bro, bring it my way. I don't care. At the end of the day, y'all don't pay my bills. I don't care. You know. But guess what? There are certain things that I say that are the absolute truth. Whether you want to hear them or not is on you, right? Before earnings, I spit a lot of truth that, believe it or not, Alex Karp brought it up himself. Literally on Adam's podcast, I went over why government contracting is a tough business. And one of the things that we should not expect is higher revenues right away to materialize just because we had a war. I brought that up, and literally 30 minutes later, it was brought up by Alex Karp at his frustration on government contracting. So if you want to hear truth, you can listen to me. If you don't want to hear the truth, you want to just keep your hands over your ears and, or your head in the sand, that's fine too. It's up to you. If there's one Indian guy sitting in the middle of Atlanta, Georgia, that can break your Palantir thesis, your thesis wasn't that great to begin with.
That's one of my points. I know Sasha, he's a very popular finance YouTuber. He made a good 10-minute video on him selling Palantir. And I watched it. People asked for my thoughts. I think he had some good points. He has the same points that Chris has, which is that the government stuff is annoying and he wants it to be more of a commercially based company. He wants this to be a snowflake, but just like an amazing technology that scales across the entire world. And he doesn't like Karp. And I can understand that. I personally love Karp. I like when Karp was banging on the table. I like when Karp was, I vibe with that. I personally like it. Now, is it going to be annoying that they don't get profitability until 2025? Yes. Do I think they?
I was going to say, Amit, when I heard you, I loved your analysis of the earnings call, and then you were like, okay, but this part was the toughest to digest.
Yes.
The
profitability stuff was rough, and I think they will get somewhere before that.
All three of you, do you think that the way it was delivered on? When will you be profitable? Were you satisfied on how he answered that question?
No, because he was hesitant.
It was pathetic. It was pathetic, and another reason is, they are sandbagging too much. In order to, they understand that they are not loved by Wall Street community, and they don't want to be. And they try to be defensive a lot of times. They say, okay, let's give a target which we can easily beat. Okay, unfortunately, those targets are not. See, if you are in a defensive mode, that's not what a growth company does. Growth companies goes on offensive. If you have the best product and you can turn the tide, you don't play this defensive. You are sitting on zero debt, 2 billion cash. If you are going to play defensive now, this is going to be one of the worst strategic mistake in the Silicon Valley. I'm telling you right now. Okay, companies. I had this professor. His name was Henning Pisjunka, and I was doing his course in INSEAD, and he was teaching us about venture building and stuff like that. And he told us about a story that when he was doing his PhD in Stanford, he met this guy. And this guy was telling him, dude, we have built this community and people are signing in, and we have invested every single dollar. I maxed out my credit card. And the professor thinks, wow, man, let me buy this guy a coffee. He's in a real bad shape. That startup was Instagram. So you see that kind of attitude. And people, if you believe in something, you go all in, and that reflects in your attitude. And at this particular point, I'm more disappointed with the attitude and the sandbagging and the frustration and rant than the numbers at this particular point. Okay, so can they turn it around? Yes, they can turn it around. Are they committing to turn it around? They are not committing to turn it around. And that is why I'm disappointed with Palantir at this particular time. Back to you.
Yeah, just to comment on that, I think that they're going to do things their way and give everyone the middle finger and say, we're going to get there, we're going to do it, but you're going to have to just ride along. And at some point that kind of just gets frustrating because you want to feel like you're a part of a team and you understand how they're going to get there and that you have confidence, right? Like the more transparency a business has with you, the more confidence you have in them getting to those goals and those growth numbers. And I don't know how much people have listened to Jensen, Lisa Su, Frank Slootman, Jeff Green at the trade desk, founder-led CEOs that are very transparent. And when you look at what the presentations they give you on Investor Day and earnings and updates, the ROI and the return on investment and the customers that they're capturing and the vision they have is very clearly articulated. There's no question on what the trade desk is doing to capture their customer base and how they were already pivoting away from the cookies and Apple situation years before. We're calling it out. They had UID 2.0 on, and they said, we're not going to be impacted. We still have a 99% renewal rate. Like, there's just not enough communication from Palantir right now to their shareholders. And I think that's what we're all frustrated on. So if everyone's mad about Chris selling his shares or anything else, investing is personal, but you got to admit, you cannot, none of you guys can say that they are being fully transparent on their business. And if you are, then you're obviously not paying attention.
To me, it's, believe it or not, it's not, I could care less if they gave investors the complete picture or not. To me, it's about the customers. And every person that I've spoken to cannot give me a justified reason to sustain this company. With Tesla, it was it was a very big difference, right? You could ask any Tesla owner and they would have told you, I love this car. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I have not come across anyone from a decision-making standpoint that said, hey, Palantir is the greatest thing under the sun. Yes, there are some end users that prefer it. And I'm totally cool with that. I've spoken to Coach Strap about it, and I think Coach Strap has evaluated the software, and he thinks it's a great software. And I totally agree with him that I actually do agree that it's probably great software. The problem is they're not translating that into action. And because they're not trading that into action, it's one of those things that I'm not a big fan of. So it's going to be a very
Is there a time you buy back, Chris?
Yeah, I told you. If Alex Karp leaves and they bring in a professional salesperson who can actually bring
What if Karp doesn't
sales,
leave, but the numbers get better?
even then, their sales model has to improve. Like I said, I am a numbers guy when it comes to this stuff. I know some people are like, oh, you'll buy in at a higher price. And I'll buy in at a lower price too. It just depends on what kind of business changes. If your entire way of investing is, oh, I'm going to blindly invest in a company without looking at the numbers, without looking at the leadership, without looking at a business model and seeing, good luck to you. Because I'll tell you right now, that's literally like throwing a dart at a dartboard and hoping that it lands on a bullseye. That's not how it works. The word that I would say that it works is the closer you look at these companies, the more you evaluate them, the closer you get to throwing that dart and eventually hitting a bullseye. So right now, like I said, I don't see the company making the right moves. But that's not to say that maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, that doesn't change. I will say one positive thing, and the reason why I ended up selling all my puts on that Friday was the extended hiring. I'm hoping that they're actually trying to build out a sales culture, and that's why they're doing all this hiring, because they need salespeople, and they need a lot of salespeople. And if it's a thick client, like he keeps saying and what everyone is saying, not only are you going to need salespeople, but you're going to need on-site support staff to maintain that damn thing. So that means you're going to need a lot of forward deployed engineers just to get it implemented and then also maintain it. Because it's not just about implementing stuff. It's also about maintaining them. Right now, that's been one of their criticisms as well. That's in that every time that you get in bed with Palantir, if you need to make a small change, you need to get them involved. Companies don't like that. Companies want to have control over a product, So I don't, like I said, at this point, I don't necessarily think Palantir has the greatest prospects, but that could change. And you know what? If I have to pay a premium to get back in, so be it. But as of right now, no, not in it.
And the main trade-off investments were Snowflake, Datadog. These guys, you think in the next 2 years just will grow better than Palantir? essentially.
Yeah, they're performing. They're in a very they're in a trending industry, so they're growing. Once Databricks IPOs, I'm gonna probably wait a little bit because usually when you buy at IPO, you end up paying a significant premium. So wait a little bit and then start buying in. But like I said, there's a lot of tech names out there right now that are very undervalued. One of the things that I'd recommend everyone do is take a look at some of your favorite indexes that have the what is that thing called, the mega caps in there, and also some growth names, because those I believe will outperform the market. Typically what happens is when you have a 25% retracement in the stock market and then things change, the ride up is significant. It's much better. So right now we've already had our 25% retracement. Inflation is going down. So from a macro perspective, we should be trending higher up. We could have a few blips of some down days, but if I for me, I'm going to be DCAing into some really good indexes, until I see that there's other companies that are worth piling some money into. There's another company I'm looking at right now. It's called Marqeta. That's significantly undervalued from my reading so far. But like I said, I'm an individual investor who likes to deep dive into companies, and when I see the business not working, I'll sell it. I'm not. I have no affinity to it.
I think one thing which is very important for everyone is that what Chris is saying, I mean, it's not like that he has changed his opinion from last podcast. I think Chris, if you have been following Chris for some time, he already mentioned that what are the different things that are troubling him about Palantir. And if you have listened this podcast closely, he also mentioned uh, that if things don't improve, and yeah, I mean, he would be out of it. It's not something that he has done out of emotions because of earnings. Okay, I think he has made up his mind and has made up his criteria for staying in and staying out of Palantir long before. I think that is what is more important at this point. And like Dom mentioned earlier, I think every investor is different. Every reason and uh, every company you invest in is for different reasons. Okay, my simple view is, I mean, I am interacting with Chris since last year, and I think he brings a lot on the table in terms of opinion, in terms of he's working in a lot of implementation IT project. We discuss things offline as well. We discuss about other companies, um, and let me be honest, I mean, this podcast is not complete without Chris. Back to you guys.
Do you think that people get upset when their bias is just not confirmed because they want more people to agree so they can feel conviction?
I think
Like
Yeah,
that's to
yeah.
me. That's
So
why there
I
aren't
think
like that's why people go to. That's why I will the human nature of us when we go and look up one of our stocks on Twitter, on the news, we want to see good stuff. We want to see we want to feel validated that we're picking the right solution that
so.
we're going to come out.
especially if
So
we're
this
not
is
choosing to invest in an index,
yeah.
because if we're going to be
So this
bold enough to
is
pick a stock, you know.
So, guys, if you are searching information always about what is good about a stock, yeah, I think you're going to lose a lot of money. You always need to seek information that disprove yourself. You always need to understand that I have a view. What if my view is wrong? What is the evidence that exists? And when the evidence is presented, then you have to judge it objectively, and you have to listen back the good thing and bad thing. You try to look for things. I think uh, if you're not looking for information that disproves you, you would never you would always disappoint yourself as an investor, may not be other. Okay. uh, so yeah, I prefer listening opposite view a lot because it challenges me. And guys, I have been wrong a lot of times. I have made money because when I have been in companies where I made money was that I was able to stay longer and I was able to stick to my guns. But I have made a lot of mistakes. I have lost a lot of money. So if you are not looking to information that challenges you, I think yeah, you will disappoint yourself as an investor then. Back to you, Amit.
No, I would agree. I've lost on several investments, riding the crowd, riding the momentum, everyone, giving that echo chamber. I don't feel Palantir's that way. I'm still holding my shares and feel confident in my thesis. But you do have to be looking at the other side of it. Like, for instance, you said Marquetta. I like the company. I have $1,000 in it, not much, but customer concentration is a concern. Once customer concentration gets controlled a little bit, might put a little more in there. It's a very interesting business. Um, so, yeah, I would just say like you really have to look at both sides, as you said, Sachin, so you can feel that conviction and that say I'm willing to risk this. And why I said I'm not buying any more shares of Palantir right now is I'm not willing to risk any more than what I've already put in. That I'm still on pace to hit my objective goals by age 50. And by spreading my bets and diversifying, continuing to diversify and strengthen the other positions that I feel confident of, that will lower my risk mitigation. It may not give me the best upside if Palantir goes to the moon, but it will lower the risk and can sleep at night.
So
So
I was
two
going to say
things.
for
Two things,
go
and then
ahead.
I'm gonna let you go, Chris. Number one, if you are a Palantir bull, the pinned message in the chat, audia.io, daily Palantir audio content. It is my new startup. If you guys want to check out audio content daily, you can sign up for that website and get your Palantir bull content, but also Palantir bear content, because this podcast is going to go up there and we're going to talk about Chris's conflicting views. No, so definitely check that out if you want daily Palantir audio content. Number two, I think Chris, absolutely, there was no doubt in my mind, even though I didn't know you were going to sell, should be on the podcast 1000%, because number one, it's not complete without Chris. Number two, it wouldn't make sense just as a friend for Chris not to be here. We're all friends at the end of the day. Number three, we need conflicting views. So whenever the Palantir news comes out during the week, Chris is going to give perspective, and he's not going to be bearish to be bearish if there's good news. He's just going to give the perspectives like he's been doing for the past 22 episodes. So I think that's going to continue.
So one thing,
the last thing I was going to say real quick is I think the reason people in the chat are upset is it's more so Chris has been vocal about Palantir as a strong investment DCAing for the past, 9-10 months. And now there's a switch. People may think that's overnight, but again, as Sachin said, if they've been listening to the pod, me and Chris have gotten into passionate debates where Chris objectively feels management sucks, the government sucks. Like, there's been a lot of debates that's made this pod entertaining because Chris has felt that there are issues. So this has been growing for a long time. His thesis has been shaking for a long time, and then this earnings call pulled the trigger, I would assume, Chris, correctly, which is why it happened.
So one thing, Amit, I don't know why you have never said it. I mean, people don't have to go to audio only to listen Delhi Palantir. They can start their own podcast there as well.
That's true.
A lot of these people, I mean, a lot of people have so much insight and the discussion. Sometimes I read the comment. I mean, guys, if you're not comfortable, I mean, for YouTube, and I know how long it takes to build a video sometimes, just sign up on audio and just use your phone to actually record something and see if you can get your own podcast running. Okay, just give it a try. I mean, and like Amit discussed, I think there's a difference between Spotify and audio. In my view, is like if you are on Spotify, it's as a small podcaster, it is very difficult to make your podcast discoverable. But when a platform grows, people grows with it. So for you, it's a low risk, high reward component. If you guys want to do something, it doesn't matter what topic. I mean, you want to talk about World of Warcraft, Call of Duty, it doesn't matter. Give it a shot. Back to you.
So someone said Chris should read 0 to 1. Bro, I have this and I have the audiobook. All right. I've read it front and back maybe like 3 times. All right. I've driven from New York to Georgia and listened to nothing but 0 to 1. All right. The entire time. I can tell you, I know a lot of people think that 0 to 1 is about Palantir. There's so many examples of Palantir. They're not applying the things that are here in their business. Okay. For anyone that does, in this, it says you need to have people that know how to do sales and they should be focused on sales. Well, guess what? For the last, 15 years until recently, they didn't have salespeople. They had Alex Karp doing the sales. So tell me, where in 0 to 1 is it written, oh, the CEO of the company should be doing all the selling of a software company? So for anyone that's thinking, oh yeah, you know what, this is a 0 to 1 play. No. Find me areas where it's a 0 to 1 where Palantir is not the 100% winner, because that's in there. It shows you, it gives you an example of Google, who's so dominant in the search area that they're literally making money hand over fist. Where is it in there that Palantir has a monopoly over this entire industry? It doesn't. It's got competition now, and the competition's winning. So for anyone that's thinking that, hey, Chris doesn't know what he's talking about, trust me, I may not know what I'm talking about. But don't say that I haven't read 0 to 1 and some of the other things. I've invested in multiple Peter Thiel companies. I've invested in AppCelera, which I think has a much brighter future than Palantir does, because the CEO is actually applying 0 to 1 principles when he's actually making the business decisions for this company, which is why I don't mind being invested in it. So like I said, I think a lot of people need to take a step back, evaluate this company. If they still feel that the thesis is there, go ahead. I will say one thing in a positive light for Palantir, because I have to. I'm former military. I can tell you, I understand the mission, and I really like the aspect that they have, that we're going to be here to protect Western values and Western democracies. I am totally for that. But I've said in the past, okay, I have two hats. I have Chris Patel, the investor hat, and I have Chris Patel, the American rah 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 hat, right? So as an American rah rah rah, absolutely, I believe in Palantir's vision. But guess what? As the investor, I know that that's also going to limit you significantly from doing business with a lot of companies, right? And that is exactly why one of the biggest things I've been advocating for the last 6 months is divide up the company, so that you're not having to have a conflicting business model, whether you're trying to decide, hey, should I work with this company because they might have a presence in China or Russia or whatever, or do I want my government secrets and technologies falling into their hands? No, separate the company. It seems like the most logical thing to do, and hopefully, eventually, it gets to the point where they actually do make a decision on that. But at the current level, trust me, I totally am for Palantir succeeding. I want this company to succeed. All right. Even if it means like it goes to the moon and I'm not on the rocket to the moon, hey, I'll happy for all you guys who've been subscribing, who've been tuning in on a Friday night listening to us, because at the end of the day, you guys are make us who we are, right? So yeah, that's it.
Dom, any thoughts from you to end this out?
Yeah, I just appreciate Chris being transparent and sharing that. I mean, he didn't have to.
I did like the little spiel he did. It was entertaining. It was a good
Yeah,
moment.
well, yeah, I love the Darth Vader music. That was hilarious. Guys, investing's personal, man. Like, hopefully, you're one, you want to be entertained. That's why you're watching this on a Friday night. But two, you're trying to learn more about the company. You're trying to, I watch Sachin stuff, Amit, Chris, and so many others, because there's only so much time in the day to gather information and form your thesis and form what you're going to do. So if I can get that information faster, then great. That helps me balance my full lifestyle of family and community involvement and stuff and work. But yeah, I mean, I think my thesis has not changed, but I do want to see better execution. And right now, I think there's other companies that are more misunderstood. Why I keep coming back to NVIDIA. I know people hate hearing about it because they hear about it all in the news, but it's not a hardware company. That's a compute platform company. It will be one of the most important companies in our world in the next 10 years. Mark my words. Back to you.
Real quick, Sachin, can you talk about NRR or Chris? Net dollar retention going down. Is that any explanation for that? It went down from
Yes.
124 to 119.
Yep. Because see, the reason it is going down, in my opinion, and see, I don't know what's going in the company internally, but because they are changing their pricing model with the clients. Okay, initially, like when you go into they're trying, if you, so when you go into a contract, there are different ways you price the client. There is an upfront cost, there is a consumption cost, there is a flat fee. Okay, if client is paying a lot in the starting, okay, or committing for a lot in the starting, you will have a high, retention overall in channel. But if you lower the barriers in terms of entry and exit, this number looks is eventually going to go lower. Okay, now why they are doing it, because they are not able to sell it, or the clients are pushing it in terms of pricing. It could be both of that at this particular point. So like I said, like if you see the amount of cash they are carrying, it looks like they can sell more, but they are not able to sell more. And if you take the case of a Snowflake, looks like they can sell more, but they are not able to find the market more. So Snowflake growth is actually driven or kept by the market or by the reach. I mean, if you see the growth of Palantir, it is kept by themselves. That means we can only sell this much, and that is the difference in the execution level at these two companies. We can talk about it. It's due to product, it's due to the sales strategy. But since the failure is happening on the sales side and sales has been the weakness of Palantir, our view is that it is their own internal issue rather than market issue at this particular point. Back to you.
All right. I think that's it. For those who want to know my thoughts, I'm in the same boat as Sachin. I'm going to give them some time, probably another year before I like officially make a decision or not. And if I like what I see in the year, even if they're not fully gap profitable or anything like that, if I like what I'm seeing get done, then I think it can happen. One thing I want everyone to remember, the 300 people that are here, yes, it makes sense in some respects to sell because sales and management, all that stuff. But if you believe in the tech, there is a world in which this is a rocket ship that has to figure out the sales and the go-to-market. And if they can do that, for example, getting really nitty gritty into the shareholder letter, Karp said there's over 700 different modular features in Foundry that his words can be standalone products on their own. Now, do I expect them to create 700 standalone products that can scale with the sales force? Probably not. But I don't know if they figure out 4 or 5 of them that really become something special and it changes the trajectory and they figure out sales and there's 25% higher. We just don't know what happens in a year from now. And I've invested way too much of my time and energy in understanding the company to be out that quickly for me. I'm playing with less money than Chris is playing with. Chris also has a wife. He's trying to get a house. So obviously that's where investing becomes a lot more personal. I can be a little bit more risky just because of my age as well. So I'm gonna see it play out and then make that decision. But I think if you're in the company and you have a thesis, Chris selling or Sasha selling, if that breaks your thesis, you don't have a thesis, right? Now, if Chris selling for a reason that you also fundamentally agree with, then you both agree on a thesis breaking reason. But him selling and doing this Darth Vader thing should not be the reason why you're sad of it. Like, you have to make your own decision. Otherwise, buy the index and follow the entire crowd. The reason you pick a stock is because you have a thesis on that one stock.
Yeah, and about indexes too, like, to me, when I invest, there are times where index investing is good and there's times where individual stock investing is good. When indexes are running at a high, that's when you have to be very careful, but you also have, this way you pick who you're trying to get. Right now, I think is a really good time to buy an index because at this point, the entire market is ready to move up. Whereas at a higher market or market top, there's very few companies that are undervalued because everything is so up there. So, being in an index wouldn't make sense. So right now, like I said, one of the things that I'm moving towards is away from individual stocks and more into indexes because I believe the next couple of years, the indexes will outperform majority of the individual stocks that you could have picked. Right. So like I said, right now, that's also another thing, too, that I think a lot of people are not necessarily talking about, which is, do you want to be in individual stocks and take that additional risk? Or would you rather be in an index and have a less risky profile, but know that your growth is assured? Right. I feel like a lot of companies are not going to be able to beat the indexes. So right now I'm in the index. So and that's not like, oh, Palantir versus any other company. It's just Palantir versus the index. In that regard, I think the indexes have a higher proportion to outperform. If indexes go up really high and Palantir is still low, and at that point it's starting to ramp up its growth again, bro, I have no qualms. I'll start selling all my index shit and buying a ton of Palantir. So maybe I'll get my redemption just like how Anakin got his at the end of Return of the Jedi. Who knows? But right now, I'm straight Vader.
So in my opinion, I think the biggest catalyst for Palantir is the midterm elections of US. Okay, at this
Red
particular
wave.
point,
You got to be explicit about it. Do you think the Republicans are going to help Palantir? I mean, we kind of can't sugarcoat it, right?
Dude, Blake Masters, who wrote 0 to 1, is going to be running for senator of Arizona. I think he got the Republican nomination. So literally, the guy who wrote this with Peter Thiel is going to be a U.S. senator.
See, whether Republicans will help or not, I don't know about that part. I mean, but whatever Democrats have been doing at this particular point, and somebody like who has been a lifelong liberal, I mean, it's heartbreaking. Okay, And one thing, I think this is one thing, there are two things which I'm looking in terms of sentiments. The first thing is that whatever happened in Taiwan issue recently and whatever happened in terms of Ukraine, it should create a sentiment. And I believe that Silicon Valley should take the sentiment as well, that working with government is not bad. If that kind of sentiment can grow, that could help Palantir in longer term. That is one. The second thing is, we have seen that how personal the politics has become. People are making personal attacks on companies and on people. Okay, and it is fair to say that with current administration, there has been a bias against certain companies. I don't know what is internally. I mean, that's all classified. But looking from outside in, I believe that Palantir is on the wrong side of that bias. Okay, as long as it can get neutral, I'll be happy. If it gets favor, I mean, that is the Republicans to decide. Okay, but I mean, like, I'm not saying that this should happen or that should happen. I'm thinking what could happen that could make that could work in favor of company. Do I support it? Do I not support it? That's not an issue at this time. Back to you guys.
All right. I think that's it for this week. Thank you all for being here. 292 of you means the world. You guys will see us next week. Chris will be here next week, and we'll be talking all about his.
I'm gonna get a "Make Palantir Great Again" hat. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I have to now. And just start saying a bunch of random shit, just like Trump. Be like, it's like, we need to build a wall between commercial and government. Without that wall, build that wall. That's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna fucking do.
Bro, I think you're gonna 10x your Twitter audience just by like being the Palantir bear.
Yeah.
Like, you're just be like Palantir.
No, bro. Sasha is the Palantir bear. Okay, I'm not bearish on Palantir. Sasha was like going at him, bro. I'm good. All right. Don't come after me. Don't come after me, please.
It's an underserved niche. You can really be a.
Dude, I'm already on Etsy looking for this make Palantir Great Again hat, bro.
You got to give me your snowflake posters now. Not snowflake, Palantir posters. You bought a bunch of them.
Yeah,
you don't need them anymore. I got all of them. I can take all of them.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys, for watching.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching.
Hey, thanks everyone. Stay safe.
Later.
See you next week, guys.
Okay, bye.